Greetings, greetings, greetings. Blessings to you all. Ekaro, ekasan, ekuro leo, ekaleo. I hope all is well with you, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods, or the time that it is where you are as you listen to this or watch this video. All is well here. We are in the midst of some real powerful political and social realizations here in the United States. And so I pray that wherever you are, that you're being safe, and that, as you learn different things about, what's going on in our world, that you be safe. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and know that, no matter who wins, we win. The ancestors win if we do what we're supposed to do. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So this is the School of Orisha Studies, the Orisha Lifestyle Academy. I'm your instructor, Obafemi Origunwa, and today I want to continue our conversation on how to study and begin your practice of Orisha lifestyle. This is the third installment, and if you haven't seen the previous two discussions, then I think you scroll back in the playlist and see what you can glean from those conversations. In the first conversation, we talked about learning styles, right? What's your approach? How do you like to take in information? Where are you comfortable? Are you a top-down processor or are you a bottom-up processor? In the second conversation, we looked at the fundamentals of Orisha lifestyle. These are all the elements that Ifa assumes that you are already familiar with and are somehow engaging with by the time you show up for a reading, right? There's certain things that are basic. They're assumptions. And so I addressed those assumptions, 16 different fundamentals of Orisha lifestyle in the second conversation. Today, what I want to focus on is something that's really important. This is where the rubber hits the road, and that's with devotion. Okay, worship. Now, some people are in the beginning, I think usually in the beginning of someone's introduction and practice of Orisha lifestyle, they don't like to call it a religion. They like to think of it as spirituality. I don't want to go into the semantics, but Ifa and Orisha is a religion. It doesn't stop at being a religion. It has history, it has science, it has politics, it has culture and tradition woven into it. There's mythology, there's poetry, there's a whole spectrum of things that are beyond religion, but it is also a religion. And as such, an integral part of this tradition is devotion, worship, reverence. Okay, it's essential. You're not gonna be successful in this tradition if you are not adept at devotion and worship and spiritual service. It's essential. It's integral, right? That's your daily. The Eastern people say, before enlightenment, fetch wood and chop wood and fetch water. That's how it goes. Before enlightenment, chop wood and fetch water. After enlightenment, chop wood and fetch water. It's the same thing. Before initiation, do your weekly worship and make offerings, right? After initiation, do your weekly worship and make offerings. That's built in, okay? And you've got to be prepared to carry out that kind of regimen in order to be successful, okay? And I'm going to tell you, there's a story that keeps coming back to my mind. It's like about a year ago, I took my student Fainde to Trinidad, and we did this really powerful 7-day ceremony. And this was the most rigorous ceremony that I've done ever, to be honest. It was really challenging, and definitely the most grueling thing that I have done in a long time in a spiritual capacity. I was really surprised, but it brought me all the way back to something that my older mentors used to talk about, right? Which was the fact that your physical body has to be in a certain condition in order for you to carry out your spiritual mission. If your physical body isn't equipped to carry the load, then you're not going to be able to fulfill your destiny, right? And this is something that I was brought into in the very early stages of my practice. And this is how they would, or kind of orientate us. You got to be in a certain condition, right? Well, your daily worship, your weekly worship, all of the different intervals of worship and service and devotion are spiritual conditioning. They not only train your physical body, but they train your mental body. They train your emotional body. They create an internal space that makes it possible for you to increase your spiritual capacity. It's creating the internal environment that is, how do we say, suitable for increasing spiritual growth and enlightenment and experience. Okay. So that's why you have to be ready to be a devotee and to be a worshiper and do what you do on a daily basis, weekly basis, et cetera, et cetera. So I have put together this little gem here, Pataki, the practical guide to Orisha devotion. This is a very small book, very small book. It numbers 39 pages total, even with some blanks, right? So it's not a lot of text. It's not a lot of text. But what it is it's very, very instructive. It's very explicit about just carrying out your daily rituals. Now, what I do that's particularly special about Pataki is that I've written this work for people who are in a couple of different scenarios. Most people who are being exposed to Orisha lifestyle do not have a consecrated altar or shrine, right? We use altar and shrine kind of interchangeably, but technically we're talking about altars. The overwhelming majority of the people don't have an altar, not a consecrated altar, okay? And not be a devotee. You don't have to have an altar to be a devotee, okay? That's important. But what kind of devotee you are will be limited by what kind of altar you do have or don't have. So I'm going to explain all this right now. But before we get to the altars and the different kinds of devotees, what I want to talk about is something that is endemic to all religions. Religions always have a calendar, right? You notice that every religion, the Islamic calendar, the Persian calendar, the Aztec calendar, the Catholic calendar, etc. Every religion has a calendar, and that calendar follows the mythology of that religion, right? They have some story that explains why certain days mean certain things. They have a certain story that explains when time begins for them. They have a certain story that explains the cycle of time and the intervals, right? The time unfolds. They have stories that explain the cosmos. They explain the sun and the moon and their rotation. They explain what we do, how we behave, ritually, agriculturally, hunting. The calendar is essential to framing up the lifestyle. So because of that, Ifa is no different. Orisha's lifestyle is no different. We have calendars. So what I have done in this book, Pataki, is I've divided the book up into 4 parts, and they are divided by different calendars. And each of these calendars creates a different worship opportunity for you. So first, I've got the 4 or 8 day calendar. It's really 4, 8. It's a 16-day calendar, right? But the basic 4-day calendar is especially designed for people who do have consecrated altars. All right. Eshu, Ogun, Obatala, Ifa, Oshun, whatever. If you have a consecrated altar that was prepared by a qualified priest or priestess, okay, then the 4-day calendar is for you. Obatala has his own interval. Shango has his own interval. Ogun, Yemoja, Obaluaye, every Orisha has their own 4-day calendar. Now they share days, right? But everybody's on a 4-day cycle in the West African tradition. All right. So no matter what shrine you have, no matter what altar you have, you need to tend to that altar every 4 days. All right. So that's what we address in the first chapter. The second chapter of the book, we look at the 16-day calendar. Now, the 16-day calendar is part of the 4-day calendar, but it's different because the 16-day calendar, what we call the Itadogun, the 16-day calendar is particularly designed for collective divination. This is where groups of people come together to consult Ifa, and Ifa will guide the community and tell the community what they ought to be planning for and anticipating. Maybe there's the market needs to be attended to. Maybe we need to protect against sickness. Maybe we need to protect against warfare. Maybe we need to tend to our domestic affairs. Ifa will identify for the group what the primary themes for every 16-day cycle are, what the sacrifices and prohibitions and observances are. All that will come through in the 16-day calendar. Okay, I addressed that in the second chapter. In the third chapter, this is the most, I think, the most universal. That's the 7-day calendar. We go through the spiritual principles that govern each of the 7 days of the week. Okay. In addition to the sequence of days, I break down what kinds of prayers you recite on each of the 7 days. Okay. Then there's, last but not least, we've got the 28-day calendar. So I put it in here as a 30-day calendar, more or less, right? It's a lunar calendar. Looking at 28 to 30 days is what it takes for the moon to complete its cycle. So the 30-day worship calendar is where we're looking at the energy of the moon as it waxes and wanes. And we look at how you structure your prayers, how you do your rituals and ceremonies, how you time different kinds of spiritual activities according to the lunar calendar. Okay. Now, with all of those calendars, everything is grounded in the sacred text, right? And this is a common theme of all my books. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm not telling you what Pee Wee and them said. I'm not telling you what I saw around the corner. I'm telling you what the sacred text mandates. This is why we have a 4-day calendar. This is why we have a 7-day calendar. This is why we have a 16-day calendar. This is why we have a 30-day calendar. Okay? These are the prayers that you recite at each of those intervals. This is the structure of your prayer. Okay? First is your invocation. Then there is gratitude. Then there is the offering. Then there is a supplication. Then there is the agreement. All of that is articulated and specified for each of those calendars. So this Pataki, this is a very, very useful guide for someone who is ready to start practicing the tradition. You want to get there and structure your day. You want to ritualize your day. You want to know how to pray. You want to know how to meditate and what to be meditating upon and what to look for in the spiritual manifestation of each day and each portion of the month. Okay, it's really super useful. Likewise, this book also has an accompanying class. Okay, so there's an 8-week digital course. It's all online, and I walk you through the full philosophical and theological implications of each of the 7 days. The course focuses on the 7-day calendar. We look at the theological and spiritual implications of each day. We look at how you approach each day. We walk you through some exercises and activities so that you can start your own practice of the 7-day devotion. Okay. So if you are someone, we go back to the first conversation about if you're a top-down or a bottom-up processor. If you're a bottom-up processor, if you're someone who wants to get busy, you want to work, you're not necessarily trying to figure out the big picture right now. You just need to know how to, sort of marshal and organize your spiritual energy and get really focused on, really authentic spiritual practices. Pataki is the way to go. And the thing that I love most about the course and the book is that I address the need of people who don't have a consecrated shrine or altar. Okay. Because I don't want you to fall into the trap that you have to have an altar in order to even get started. You don't have to have an altar to get started, right? I wouldn't suggest that anyone start there. I wouldn't even suggest that you start with getting a reading. I think the first thing you do should not be getting a reading. You got to be ready, right? You got to know the fundamentals before you get a reading. When Ifa says you got to make a sacrifice and feed your ancestors, you got to understand what that means. You're making your sacrifice for your ancestors, and you're talking about Imhotep and Harriet Tubman, and no, that's not proper. Ifa is not, you know what I mean? No one's going to sign off on that. Harriet Tubman ain't listening to you. Imhotep's not listening to you. Unless, of course, they are in your bloodline and you know this, but you don't. So we don't want to play. We're not pretending. This is not about imagining stuff. This is about a real practice. It's a real tradition. Just like the sun and the moon is real, the day and night is real. This tradition is real. And the Pataki worship structure allows you to participate in the reality, in the spiritual reality that the Yoruba people have refined over millennia. All right. And you don't have to have a consecrated altar to do that. We're looking at the 7-day calendar. I want to be real clear, right? To have any kind of an Orisha worship, that must be done by a priest or a priestess. You cannot make your own Shango shrine. If you have a Shango shrine that you put together based on your own whims and feelings, no, it's not legit. Okay. But you don't have to have such a thing in order to focus your spiritual energy. The 7-day calendar, the 30-day calendar, those are ideal for people who are brand new, do not have shrines, do not have altars, but you're ready to commit to a discipline, to establishing a practice. Okay. So that's what we have for today's conversation. Pataki, you can pick it up. I see somebody put it in the chat. Thank you so much. Obafemio.com/publications. It's where you can find the book. As you scroll down, you also will see a link to the class. It's available as well. If you take them together, they complement one another very nicely. But that's my installment for today. I hope it has been instructive. And if you have any questions at all whatsoever, please feel free to leave your questions in the comment section, and I'll be happy to respond as soon as possible. In the meantime, may the blessings continue to flow for you and for your loved ones. May the love of your ancestors continue to uplift you, to inspire you, to guide you, to keep you, and to protect you. And may the earth continue to support you and give you firm ground to stand upon. Ashe. Bye for now, everybody. Odabo.